Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As we welcome you once again to the Wednesday night edition of Wednesday Nights with myself, Inayat Wadi. The time is just gone 2 minutes past 7 p.m. We welcome our listeners on the various platforms of Salaamedia, also on the Facebook page, and also on YouTube channel. So you can view this interview coming live to you this evening, and we'll be with you right until 9 p.m. Now, with the local government elections gaining momentum in the country, it's basically a few weeks away, November the 1st, where millions of South Africans will once again go to the polls and to vote in the local government elections. And the key issue here is how prepared are we as voters, and also at the same time looking at the people that are going to be representing us at a local level. Now, tonight's broadcast is coming to you courtesy of collaboration with the Movement for a United South Africa, MUSA, and this is a transformative civil society movement that unites South Africans in advancing socio-economic justice. Now, they put up a beautiful guideline with regard to the upcoming local government elections in terms of selection of representatives by political parties and voters. Now, this is an extremely important process. And tonight, I will be co-hosting the show with Angelo Fick, and he is a household name. And also, our guest tonight will be from various political parties. We've got from the ANC, we've got Zarina Motsala, who is a Ward 9 candidate for Lenasia. We've got from the Al Jama Party, Councillor Imran Musa, who is currently the Ward 9 candidate for Lenasia, and currently in Ward 58, we've got Councillor Mohammed Alex Christians. Now, when looking ahead at the elections, there are a number of issues, and we're already starting to see reports starting to surface with regard to political parties, but there are a number of issues that one needs to take into account. The key issue is about being ethical, being selfless, being competent in leadership, and this impacts on each and every one of us, whether we belong to organizations in our personal space, as local communities, as local societies. So we need to unpack a lot this evening as we prepare for the elections and together with our guests. But firstly, I'd like to welcome to the show tonight my co-host, Angelo Fick. Angelo, good evening to you, salam, and welcome to the show.
Walaikum salam to you and to the listeners. I'm really privileged to be here tonight and try to co-host the session.
Yes, wonderful having you with us, Angelo, and also the guest tonight. Firstly, we're going to go along to Zarina Motala. Zarina, assalamu alaikum and welcome. Yes, I think I am having a slight problem for some reason or the other. Listening to the Councillor Zarina Motala, we're going to get back to you. Al Jama, Councillor Imran Musa, assalamu alaikum to you.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I think Councillor Zarina is back on.
Okay, Councillor Zarina, assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Walaikum salam. I greet you all in the name of peace.
Yes, and also to
I'm back on.
Assalamu alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum salam and jazakallah for having me on.
Yes. Now, I'm going to start off with my co-host, with Angelo. And Angelo, obviously,
there's just an interference in the sound. The sound's not very clear.
Yeah, I'm unable to hear anybody else clearly. There seems to be a delay.
To try and get a clearer sound. But just to get to my co-host, Angelo. Angelo, I've mentioned a few things with regard to introducing the show. The key issue here is I just want to talk a bit about the objectives of the Movement for a United South Africa, talking about transforming civil society, because this is what this local government election is all about. We're talking of a society.
Afraid I didn't hear that question clearly.
And
seems to be some kind of delay in
at a local level as well. And just your thoughts in introducing what we're trying to achieve tonight.
Hear that question, so I'm unable to answer it. There is a real problem with the sound.
We're going to go, we're just going to, what we're going to do is we're just going to put everybody on hold. We're going to try and get onto a better line. So if you could just hang on, please.
Oh, thank you.
Salaamedia, a global voice for humanity.
Reliable access to clean water could save thousands of lives each day. With proper sanitation and easy access to fresh, clean water, communities can flourish. Our Thirst Relief Appeal provides clean water to communities in Asia, Africa, and the Middle East by building deep wells and providing sustainable water and hygiene solutions. A monthly donation of as little as 700 Rand could build a well for a community in need. That's only 23 Rand a day. Donate today, www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 11 00 573. Penny Appeal, small change, big difference.
What makes Randery Jewelers the optimum place for your memorable gift? Is it our range of exclusive, high-end, luxurious jewellery? Or is it our master craftsmanship of all your bespoke jewellery needs? We believe it's because at Randery Jewelers, we know just how to make your special moments last forever. Whether it's for a wedding, anniversary, or just a simple gift to show your love, trust Randery Jewelers to make it special. www.randeryjewelers.com. Make your moments last forever with Randery Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
The following political party advertisement has been paid for by the party concerned.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings be upon all. My name is Imran Musa from the Al Jamaa Party. I am currently a councillor for Ward 9 in Lenasia. Vote Al Jamaa in the coming local elections for us to continue to serve you to the best of our ability. You must have seen the huge impact and felt the difference we are already making in the community. As your beloved councillor Imran Musa of Lenasia, you're most welcome to contact me on 082-805-1368 for any service delivery queries. #I love Lenasia.
For a long time, we've lived in a centralized world where institutions held the all-important data and confirmed all transactions. Those times are over. Welcome to Libertas Group, a blockchain development company boasting an ecosystem that continually redefines the way we do business. Our blockchain is decentralized, making it immune to hacking or alteration, putting the power back in your hands with no middleman so you can focus on the growth of your business. Libertas, the simplest investment choice you'll make.
Salaamedia, a global voice for humanity.
The time is just gone 10 minutes past 7 p.m. and we are looking at the local government elections. We have got panelists that have been assembled. Co-hosting with me this evening is Angelo Fick. We've got Zarina Motala, we've got Imran Musa, and we've got Mohammed Alex Tristan from representing the various parties. Now, Angelo, I'm hoping you can hear me now. Is it much better? Yes, we are having a bit of a problem listening to Angelo. We're going to try and obviously see if we can't get him on a better line as well. Zarina, can you hear me?
Inayat, I can hear you. It's Mohammed.
Okay, Mohammed, you can hear me quite clearly. And Imran, I suppose you can hear me as well?
I can't. Everything is breaking.
Yes, I think we apologize. I think somewhere along the line, I think there are some gremlins within the system, but we definitely will try and get through. But Mohammed, can you hear me while we're trying to sort out the sound problems?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, right, Mohammed, let's start off with you and just looking at obviously the elections that are coming up. And you have been a councillor for a number of years already by now. you've had sufficient experience in the space. But the key issue that we want to talk about tonight, and I have addressed some of these issues that MUSA, the guidelines that MUSA has basically provided in terms of being transformative. But the key issue here is civil society, and we're looking at social economic justice. Now, just trying to, your thoughts on social economic justice, particularly at a local level, because I'm sure you've seen so much, you've experienced a lot over a period of time being a councillor and serving a local community.
Jazakallah for that. Yes. When it comes to those particular issues, I think that's where the Democratic Alliance has been its strongest, because as a organization that believes in human rights and the value that every individual can offer, most of our policies and in what we do is based in terms of socioeconomic justice. By this, I mean we need the environment so that everybody feels safe. People can also prosper when it comes to economic development, and we believe that people should not be given hand-ups, but not be given handouts, but hand-ups. By this, we mean we empower them so that they can feel as if they are part of our communities, part of society, and contributors to that.
Yes, this obviously and we're going to obviously go into a lot more detail just to try and obviously get to grips with some of the issues that we want to talk about. Zarina, I'm hoping you can hear me by now.
Hear you now. Thank you so much.
Yes. Zarina, just the question that I had raised with Alex as well, and looking at it, and now you're going to be obviously the Ward 9 candidate for Lenasia, and with the upcoming local government elections, it's important that we have the right people, we have the right fit for the job, because the next 5 years are going to be important, and it is about being ethical, it is about being selfless, but it is about serving a community, and all of that obviously comes with a leadership.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. And I think to this end, the ANC in its manifesto has said that we will continue to ensure that we deploy ethical leadership at a municipal level, and also to ensure that the management, including workers and officials, are responsible and behave in a manner that public funds are spent adequately for service delivery, and that the people get value for money.
Yes, shukran for that, Zarina. Imran MUSA.
Thank you. Thank you, Inayat. Peace be upon all. I am really, firstly, indeed humbly privileged and honored to be part of this excellent initiative by MUSA and Salaamedia, the collaboration. And really, I welcome this initiative so that people can know exactly, what is expected of ward councillors. So, firstly, I think in terms of communications at ground level is very important to understand the heartbeat of the community. And I think once as a ward councillor, once one understands the heartbeat of the community and you're hands-on and you communicate well with the community, you find yourself in a situation where you can then perform much better because you understand your people. And that's what ward councillors are all about. So in terms of ethics, you need integrity, you need honor when you're serving.
Yes, I think for some reason or the other, again, there appears to be some gremlins within the system, and we have just lost Imran MUSA. But just looking at Angelo, I'm hoping, Angelo, you are on a better line. Angelo, can you hear me?
Inayat, we cannot see Angela on the line yet.
Okay, yeah. In fact, it's just that I've had a bit of a power failure, so I'm trying to manage its logistics, and we must apologize for this. So I'm on audio at this point in time, so I'm unable to see what is happening on the screens. And So, I'm going to obviously be guided by you people. You can basically see developments, and also looking at, we're going to try and get hold of Angelo, and my engineer obviously will notify me when Angelo is up and running. But just coming back to the issues now, and, by way of introduction, Alex, we obviously talking about manifestos, but also at the same time, when we're looking at this entire process, and let's talk about leadership. Let's start with leadership, because all councillors that are going to be elected this time around, they're going to be leaders in the community, as they've been all the time. Now, as far as leadership qualities are concerned and representing a political party, take us through that process, please, Alex. How are your councillors selected?
Well, with the Democratic Alliance, our process is very clinical. Anybody can apply. There is a process where we go through certain criteria based on IEC regulations, as well as what party requires. Those people are then shortlisted. They go through an interview process. Once they interview, they are then assessed to see whether they will be able to provide the service to the community as expected by the DA councillors. And then the party will do their selection process. And finally, the interviews, once concluded, would then result in the candidates being chosen either for the board or to be put onto the party political list. Then, because we've had experience in government as well, there is a further interview process and assessment done for your leadership. This is your mayoral candidate, where they are put through in terms of what they have to offer. Also, if they understand the difference between being an executive and being on the legislature side, and what is required from them in terms of that. The process also encompasses that of the speaker on the legislature side, because you must understand the executive and the legislature, that you've got that separation of power. So you must be able to know how to hold your executive accountable. So that is the processes we follow in the Democratic Alliance.
Yes, in fact, I'd like Zarina to also come in here, because Zarina, we've seen the last 5 years, we've seen so much happening by way of service delivery protests that have been taking place at a local level, which tells us that we have got a problem in this country. Now, I'm not going to be pointing fingers at anyone in particular or at any political party, but generally, it does appear as if we have got a problem, particularly when councillors are selected, those that are not doing their job. And I just want to look at it from an ANC's perspective. How does the ANC view the councillors? How do they see leadership, and what is expected of them?
Hello?
Yes, Zarina?
I actually couldn't hear that. Pardon, Inayat, you want to just run that by me again? The sound had gone off.
Yes, I said the DA obviously have got a selection process, and I'd like to know whether the ANC has got a similar process in terms of selecting the councillors and those that are going to be representing the party at local government level. And just added to that, if we look at the last few years, Zarina, we've been inundated with hundreds of service delivery protests, which tells us that we have got a problem. Somewhere along the line, someone is not delivering, and that is the reason why we see the unhappiness, particularly at local level, and that is the reason why we are seeing so many service delivery protests taking place right across the entire country.
Okay, the ANC process is, sorry, Nat, the sound is extremely soft on this side, but I think I caught a bit of it. The ANC process are the candidates are nominated by their branches. I think in this case, it was both for the ward and for the proportional representative list. So each branch has a nomination process through a fully corrected branch meeting, depending on the numbers of members at that branch. But the ANC had further did, I think, in this time, is to also take the candidate that's elected by the branch to the communities and for the communities to actually have a voice and say which candidate they feel will best serve them in the next 5 years. And the ANC had also gone through a process of through the ivory needle to sort of just further interview the candidates and to know that they do understand that they need to be ethical leaders, and I think best chosen in their community. So that was quite a rigorous process for the ANC, and that's how the selection came about. The ANC had also wanted to maintain experience. They wanted the 50% of women that I think I want to say proudly that I'm one of them, that the ANC has chosen. And they also have a lot of youth leaders coming into this round. So I think it's very comprehensive, and with the ANC really targeted every sector in a community, taking through the experience as well that current councillors do serving.
Yes, shukran for that, Zarina. And Imran, you are the current councillor for Ward 9 in Lenasia. And apart from just meeting the criteria, looking at the selection process, how important is it for councillors to have a grasp, to understand, to know what is actually happening in their communities so that they can provide that level of competence that is required by a councillor or a leader in the community?
Yes, thank you, Inayat. I think that's very, very important in terms of communities, because that's what actually the communities need and want. They want a leader that can assist them, that can help them, that can communicate with them, there's a certain amount of expectations from a ward councillor. And it is very important that the type of a person that is as a ward councillor must have that rapport with the community and communicate with the community to a level that is at ground level. And as I mentioned earlier, you understand the heartbeat of the community. And I think that's most important. And then also with leadership goes integrity, honor, and ethical leadership, where there's trustworthiness between the community and the ward councillor. So those are some of the ingredients that the community appreciates. And if you can work well with the community, you're winning, because then you won't have all these protests, etc., because you can work together as a community and you can deal with those issues that were mentioned earlier by yourself with regards to service delivery, where there is a problem in terms of the city council, but we work together and we try and resolve them. I'm totally solution driven. So in terms of my leadership skills, I am totally solution driven, and that's where I come from. Thank you.
Inayat, Angela is also back.
Okay, so we may have lost Inayat there, and what I'll do is step in for him in the meanwhile. So my sense is that people are very committed, and there are very many councillors like the three of you, or councillor candidates, who are come out with really good programs, and you're really committed to the project. But to what extent do you intend to balance out, among other things, your commitments to your party and the party's agenda and the very basic needs that people at the ward level may have, and how you will intend to address that?
So, okay.
Begin with Imran, work our way through Mohammed, and then go on to Zarina at the end.
All right. Thank you very much. So may I humbly submit that, I think as a ward councillor, may I humbly submit that Lenasia is an excellent example of the recent changes that has taken place. So I'm very, very fortunate that the Al Jamaa Party is not governed by gatekeeping policy. So I'm quite, adaptable in terms of at ground level to assist where the community needs me in any way. So these are some of the qualities or the characteristics of myself being a ward councillor, to be able to communicate with the community to a level that they feel that they have an open communication policy with me. You must have heard the advert earlier on, where I openly give my number. I receive basically 200-300 phone calls a day. I also receive many, many WhatsApp messages daily to assist with service deliveries. And then I have a strong volunteer team that assists me. And I think those are some of the important issues or policies that I use to communicate with my community in terms of assisting the community at ground level. And as I said earlier, it's with regards to understanding the heartbeat of the community to ensure that they are satisfied in terms of service delivery and any problems or challenges that they have. And, if you're very active and vibrant with your communication skills, then the residents take well with you, and you establish a very good relationship as a ward councillor with the community. So the most important ingredient, I think, is that I, as a councillor, particularly in Lenasia, can cite an example that I'm not governed by party policies, but rather community-driven and understanding the heartbeat on the ground. So this makes it so much more easier for me to work free-handedly, and makes it easier for my community and for the community to be in comfort. Thank you, Angelo Fick.
Okay, so the other two councillor candidates, Mr. Christians and Ms. Motala, you obviously work in larger parties, and while Mr. MUSA indicates that he doesn't have these party commitments that he calls gatekeeping, for you, the strength of having a party behind you is that you have the party mechanisms. So how do you balance out using the party mechanism and your constituency demands? Shall we start with Mr. Christians and then go to Ms. Motala?
Thank you very much for that, Angelo. I think it's quite simple within the Democratic Alliance. I mean, our policies are geared to ensure a better community, a safer community, and that is what we as DA councillors strive for. We don't go and make promises to achieve things that the community may want that we know we will not be able to deliver on. And when I'm talking about safety and a better environment, let's just use the example of in Ward 58, where I'm currently the councillor. There was a big hooah about a park that was called a Condom Park. And Condom Park was such that the city did not have the funds to go in and fix it up. The debauchery that was happening in there was constant, and not even JMPD or SAPS could get it stopped. So the approach from myself as a DA councillor within the policies of the DA and the mobilization of my party to support me was in terms of our policy, where we believe strongly in public-private partnerships. And the community came on board, and today, if you go look at what the community is calling Firdaus Park, or the Park of Paradise, it is completely different to what it was 5 years ago. The community has taken ownership. The city has come on board to partner with them. It is fenced off. There is no drugs there. There's no prostitution happening there. Children feel safe to go there. The parents come and sit there and watch them. It is a place where the community has started coming together and actually started uniting the community. The two groups that was initially at fighting with each other of who's going to do what in that park have actually started working together, in that the one group fenced the park, the other group got funding and they put in more toys, equipment. And if you go to Firdaus Park now, you will find people from 35 different countries happily enjoying their surrounding now. So that is the sort of things that we can do within the Democratic Alliance, and we're not constrained because our policies are not such that it only works for one group or one particular society. It's there for all the people. Jazakallah.
Thank you. Ms. Motala, you come from a very strong party that has numbers to back it up. And so in some senses, it is easier for somebody like you to get things through. In other senses, you also sit with a very strong party. How do you balance this out for your constituents?
Okay, thank you. Angela, I would first say I'm currently a serving PR councillor since 2017. And despite being a PR councillor and serving in the ANC, and previously in 2016, serving under the coalition with the DA and that the DA was governing. So as a PR councillor, I've had various achievements. So really, it's irrespective of who's governing, but it's how good you can vouch for your party, for your community, and how do you lobby government in assisting your communities. And I've had a couple of successes, even under the previous administration that also called. So yes, there was continuous outages in a particular ward in Lenasia Drive. And at that time, it was myself that really liaised with the MNC for infrastructure. We got separate boxes put in for that community along Lenasia Drive. Because that community was really affected by illegal connections, and today they have their own boxes, okay? Their own electricity supply boxes. The other issue that I dealt with in this 5-year term was there's an area called the Lenasia Driving Range. Again, what I had done there is submitted a petition through the community and advised them, guys, if this is what you want to get rid of, this is what you do. And safe to say, we had an on-site inspection with the entire petitions committee, and that place is now closed down. The illegal structure was demolished, and the community had, at their own expense, Angelo, fenced that area off to make it safe for themselves because they were infected by crime. And another issue I think that I also dealt with is the lobbying for funds for the upgrade of the Lenasia substation, which supplies electricity to the entire Lenasia area. So yes, as a PR councillor, I've had various successes under both administrations, the DA and the current ANC administration.
Thank you so much for that. I see Inayet is back. If he has input, it would be wonderful to hear from him. But I think I've given you all three the opportunity to foreground your achievements in the next few minutes. And in the rest of the session, I'm not likely to be as kind and delightful as I am at the moment. And we'll ask some tough questions about what your vision is for your constituencies, for the city of Johannesburg as a whole. And there, I think we will start probing more deeply into and critically into the vision that you propose, not just what you have already achieved. But thank you so much for all of those. Inayet, are you around? Okay, I don't hear from Inayet, so I will continue to kind of cover for us. So you have all outlined what your achievements are, but those achievements are not to be dismissed. They are, really profound achievements. They are significant, but there are challenges that have emerged in our city, in our wards, in our communities that we have to start thinking through. And you've started raising some of those issues in your responses. What I'd like to hear from you is how you intend to address some of those very other specific issues that hit at the ward level that people feel need to be articulated to the city government to address for themselves. And those include issues of cohesion, of getting along, because part of local government legislation has been to undo the spatial dynamics of apartheid, and alongside that, the kind of thinking that came with apartheid of having differences articulated and differences foregrounded. What is your party, what are you as a councillor going to do to make sure that these divisions that are currently emerging, not the old divisions, but current divisions in the most unequal society between the people who have, the people who don't, between property owners and homeless people, between people who are new residents and have a very recent foothold in a community, and the older residents in a community who want to preserve elements that they've inherited from the past. How will you speak to these different constituencies in your wards? Because wards are not uniform. They have people of different classes, people of different faiths, people of different, shall we say, priorities. Shall we begin with Ms. Motala and work our way back towards Mr. MUSA at the end via Mr. Christians?
Thank you. Okay, so various challenges in wards, it cuts across. I'm glad we touched on the issue of inequality. And I think we need to understand the mandate of local government, that you need to maintain and preserve areas, and where people don't have, okay, you need to actually have projects and programs in place and development for those that don't have. So coming from a region like Region G that is extremely unequal, the most informal settlements, I won't talk about, you can probably talk about later about how that happened and why we are just bombarded with informal settlements all over, land invasion. So really, I think to this end, my continuous engagement with communities, I'm a firm believer that you need to continuously engage and listen to people, okay? And I continue to do that. And the ANC expects that of us as councillors, to listen to communities. So you need to really strike a balance without upsetting anybody. And rightly so, a lot of people want the nature around them. They want their areas to be preserved. And you can't look it down on anyone else coming out there. So it's how do you lobby government to continue to give you the kind of services, what kind of collaboration, and how do you understand and make people understand the kinds of challenges faced by a municipality trying to address all these issues with the haves and the have-nots. And this I will continue to do because these discussions are held all over. Okay, and again, like I say, the region we come from, absolutely unequal, unemployment, poverty. But I think the continuous engagement and make people understand how the kind of spatial framework that we come from, okay, needs to also change. You're looking at the transport services. Okay, you're looking at the children coming from schools, from our outside areas. How do we welcome them? How do we make sure that they are safe when they're coming into our areas? So to this end, there are projects in place. Different departments are liaising with communities around various issues. A current discussion, Angela, is about the homeless people. Where are they going to go? There is not enough safe houses and places to put homeless people. So we will continue to engage and ensure communities and make them understand. And I think a lot of them, I must say, from this entire constituency, is very giving, okay? But you also have elements of racism, and I think people they don't mean bad, but I think it just comes across very badly sometimes. And you have to make sure you calm the waters and make people understand it's not just what you see, but can you see it from this point of view? And that continues the continuous engagement and making people see how we are. It's actually very good to say we're so many years into democracy, but you know what, Angela, with the kind of spatial network and where people are, we are so far removed, okay, from economic hubs. People still get up early, people travel. So we need to ensure that we continue to lobby government and departments and ensure that people all are happy, they feel safe where they live, and they're close to amenities, and children feel safe, and the women feel safe walking around. So this will continue. I do this as PR councillor, and I will continue to engage should I become the ward councillor for Ward 9, the successful
Thank
ward
you
councillor.
so much, Serena. Mohammed, you spoke about that park, which demonstrates some of the issues of differences in diverse communities. What is your vision then, based on that experience, for a future going ahead over the next 5 years?
Thank you very much for that, Angela. Before I come to your question, let me just say that it was quite interesting listening to Councillor Motala from the ANC speak, because this is what they've been saying for the last 25 years. And in 3 years, the DA has been able to deliver more in Johannesburg than they were in the last 25 years, because the time for talking is over. It's time for action. And when it comes to that, this is some of the things we did and we will continue to do. Public-private partnerships are the way to go forward. If you look at the land invasions that were happening in Malaysia, it was happening in state-owned properties. Why? Because the government was not utilizing their land. For us in the DA, we believe that if government does not have a need for land, we shouldn't keep it. We should get into partnerships with private individuals, or even those who do not have homes, and give them in sort of a voucher system, where we say, instead of the government keeping the money to build you the house, here's the amount of money that will help you. You go and start building your own house. That will give pride to people, and also the quality that they will build it with will be much better than what we've seen with these contractors coming in. So those are some of the things that we will do to make our society better. The other thing about inclusivity is that in the last 5 years, I haven't been fighting about what apartheid has done. I have been fighting about what post-apartheid has done to our communities. The amount of people that have invaded our city illegally, also the amount of illegal construction happening, has devastated the infrastructure. And for us, we believe in proper justice, in that if people say they do not know how to apply for rezoning, let's empower them, let's teach them. And that's what's happened. In the last 5 years, there's been minimal illegal construction happening in Ward 58. Why? Because when we were in government from 2016 for the first 2 years, our MMCs made it a point to go out and educate people. And also explain to them that don't be afraid of government. Government is your friend. We're here to assist you to follow a specific way so that the future is much better for everybody. So instead of building on the building line, let us show you that come and apply for rezoning, bring plans, and we can then assist you and say X, Y, and Z is not going to work in terms of our building schemes. you need to do this. And that has been happening. And it's becoming much better because people are getting educated and they're doing it. So that's some of the things. The other things that the DA strongly believes in terms of cohesion is to create, is not to create hubs where people have to go to, but create that within your community. So where there is land, like there is in Lenasia, why create a business center only? Let each community have its own business center. Let them have a park. Let them have your libraries. All of that needs to be inclusive in your developments. And that is what we would promote, because at the end of the day, without the community and government working together, the future is not going to look rosy for our future generation. So those are some of the things that I think is quite important in
So
terms
I'll come
of
back to you
fixing Java.
I'll come back to you at some point about the question of the language that we use to talk about people that both you and Zarina may have to address. But let's go to Mr. Musa.
Yes, thank you.
What is your vision in terms of getting people?
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very much. As I said, I am totally solution-driven, and positively driven as well. So I think the first most important step I would take for my vision would be a very strong economy in Gauteng. I think that would be the most important ingredient for Gauteng on the whole, as well as Lenasia and many of the other wards. Because if you have a strong economy, automatically then you have very good opportunities for creating employment. And then everything else follows. Then you have good service delivery that needs to be improved. And then you also have the social upliftment of the underprivileged, which has been mentioned earlier. We can then find, a shelter for the homeless, ensuring that land grabs are not prevalent by providing alternative accommodation. So these are just some of the issues that I would like to see in the next 5 years that we have as a vision for Gauteng in particular. And then also the safety and security aspect, and then respect for one another as communities. Creating the humanitarian qualities within ourselves, where we enjoy recreational facilities when we have enough, when we got a good economic system in place. So ensuring that we work together, I think the aptitude and the positive mindset is so important in creating in societies that we work together in love and collaboration in a way that, the community takes well with. And I think if we work together in that spirit, we shall surely achieve our goals as a community here in Gauteng. Thank you very much, Angelo.
Thank you so much to all three of you. But now I'm going to get very critical. What I'm hearing from you is often a kind of party line, which is important, and I hear about your achievements. But what I hear from, Mr. Musa, from Imran, is that he wants to provide leadership. But for many of us, we really are pushing for public service. We're looking for people who are going to serve the communities. And to what extent will each three of you continue to do service? In other words, are you consulting on a regular basis? To what extent can a particular member of the community contact you easily? Imran spoke about the hundreds of calls he gets a day. So that's one way of doing this. But of course, the pressure is that you will be councillors in a municipal chamber that has hundreds of other people also representing their constituents, and you're going to have to do some horse trading. You're going to have to do some, arguing and fighting, and you're going to have to do some cooperation that may not only be within your parties, as we've learned over the last 5 years through coalitions and through changes of government. To what extent are you able to, and will you be able to, work with people that in this election period you are opposing, that you're taking on, that you're denouncing their lack of achievements or their policies? How will you work with them after November the 1st, after November the 10th, going into 2022, to make these achievements that you are asking for reality? Shall we begin with you, Mr. Christians, and then work our way through Ms. Mutala to Mr. Musa?
Jazakallah, Angelo. Angelo, in 2016, when we took over, it was a coalition government. So we had to work with different political parties in the chamber to achieve it. there's also this, I don't know why, but I'm getting this feeling from you that there's this idea that ward councillors get budgets. We don't. There's no ward budgets
No,
as
not at
such.
all. So what I'm
Yeah.
asking is, how will you represent your ward's interests to this multi-party forum, given the vision, and how have you done this before? And yes, there was a coalition government, but we're hearing from the national leadership of the DA what a spectacular failure they felt that was and why they're not likely to do that again. So how will you work with people who are currently, and this is for all three of you, people who are currently your political antagonists? How will you work after the election results come in with those antagonists, not just with members of your own party, to agitate for those issues? But, you know, this is not about the budget for your ward. This is, if you want that park to happen, how do you push for public services through the municipality to get it?
Well, currently, I've had a lot of success with the ANC GLU in that the needs of my community are presented to them in the form of proposals, and budgets have been given. Point in case is that we spent close to 100 million building a multi-purpose center. When the phase one was completed, we're supposed to open up to the community. Sports and Rec came back and said, Councillor, we don't even have an operational budget. I then motivated to the ANC, and the MMC actually found us money to be operational. Now, just a matter of fact, matter of getting the ANC leadership to push those staff members to actually do their work and make this place operational. So that is some of the things you got to do in the background, and it is being done and has been done. In terms of the DA, the reason why we're pushing for a majority in Johannesburg is to ensure that what we are promising right now in terms of our manifesto, we can achieve it without having to say to our residents, sorry, we don't have the numbers, therefore we cannot give you what we promised you. So that is the main reason why we're pushing for a majority in the city of Johannesburg. So if we are in government, it becomes much easier. The DA process is quite simple. As ward councillors, we put forward what it is in terms of needs of our community. We normally given a priority of 3 per term, per year, in which gets put into the budget. So that's how we work. If you look at our model in Cape Town, and that is something we want to implement here in Johannesburg, each ward councillor is also given a budget of R1 million, so that specific issues that a ward has can be dealt with. And this is something that we need to look at in terms of bringing government closer to the people. In Johannesburg, it does not happen. The executive decides what the money is going to be used for, and you as a councillor will either vote for it or vote against it come the budget debate. So that is some of the models we are using. How do we interact more with the community? Yet again, it's a model that we use in Cape Town, and it's very successful. Each ward councillor has got an administrator sitting in an office in the ward, taking down these issues and taking it to the various departments so that they can then deal with service delivery. In the city of Johannesburg, this has not. The ratio is 1:5 or 1:3 administrators, and they don't even sit in the ward. They sit in offices in Braamfontein where residents can't even get to them. So those are some of the things that we will do as the Democratic Alliance to bring government closer to the people. And in terms of the budgeting process, we need to re-look at what we've been told is the process and look at models we are working. And that is why the top 5 municipalities in the country is run by the Democratic Alliance, because our system works.
Thank you. Mr. Musa. Imran, do you have a response?
Thank you, Angelo. So I think the important issue is that once we have good small business development, promoted in terms of the city council, and we encourage small business development that will create employment, it will open up a spectrum of opportunities for many of the underprivileged, as well as open up doors and avenues for social skills development, etc. So in there, we also have the IDP, which is a governmental initiated process that municipalities follow in preparation of a 5-year strategic plan for social development. I think That's what we normally follow the process. And if we continue in this light, in a good way, and associate ourselves in a manner with the city council to ensure that we convince the councillors at city council level to understand the importance of having a good economic system in the city council. It will solve a lot of problems in our economy, because everything will just follow easily down, from employment to social development, underprivileged, etc. And then we look at our safety and security issues that are also just as important. So one of the other important issues is that service delivery needs to be maintained at a very high level. We need to maintain this. We need to put a lot of pressure on the departments to ensure that service delivery is maintained and that the communities do not protest. So those are some of the issues that I would like to see, in the next 5 years, to ensure that the communities are taken care of in terms of safety, security, and also ensuring that we have enough housing for many of those that are houseless, so that we don't get into confrontation with illegal land invasions. And then we also have a major issue with illegal connections as well, which is placing a huge burden on many of the constituents here in the south. So those are some of the issues that we need to look at. And I think through the IDP plan, hopefully, we need to convince City that these are the issues, and we need to identify these issues with the community, at heartbeat level, as I mentioned earlier, on the ground. I've been hitting the ground very often recently, and as you've noticed, even in my advert, I haven't, on a lighter note, I haven't even, stipulated times like many of the councillors. I just gave my name, Imran Musa, Councillor Imran Musa. Contact me on 082-805-1368. And I don't even mention a time there, because I'm so committed and dedicated and passionate about ensuring that Gauteng really becomes a good region where we have a solid economic hub here in Gauteng, so that the people here in the communities have enough opportunities for themselves in terms of employment, in terms of many of the other opportunities, once we have a good economic hub as well as a good transport node. Here in Lenasia, we've also fortunately have had the opportunity as a ward councillor to have the CBD upgrade here in Lenasia. So we've started the process. The process is almost finished here in the next month or two, and Lenasia will have a good economic hub being upgraded as well. So those are some of the policies that we are working on to ensure that the communities feel satisfied, and they understand that we are here as ward councillors to take their needs to City and ensure that their needs are fulfilled in the best possible manner in our, our capacities as ward councillors to present to the City, to ensure that the City is pressurized to an extent that these needs are fulfilled. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Zarina, you've now heard from the others, so you're in a position to kind of respond to some of the criticisms they've given of the current government. But I'd like you to move beyond that and also talk about the vision that you have precisely to address some of these issues as a potential ward councillor, having been a PR, a proportional representation councillor.
Okay, first of all, I want to say, as mentioned by Councillor Christians, it's not about having the numbers. Once elections are done and dusted, irrespective of who the numbers are and who voted for you, you need to ensure that you deliver your services to the community. I think my vision for the entire nation and its constituency is to continue to address the issues of maintenance in an area. Okay, we spoke earlier, I think you spoke earlier about accountability. Okay, councillors need to be accountable to their constituency. Above all party lines, I think the councillor, the ward councillor in particular, okay, is the intermediate between the City of Johannesburg, its legislative arm, and the community. How well do you go to council and articulate what your community's needs are? So, Councillor Christian, it's not about the numbers. I think we all know that. We all go to budget processes. The DA, in their 3-term office, I want to safely say that all the illegal land invasion had happened because of your coalition. There was no stop to it. So I think to blame the game, to blame anyone is not going to help us all. We need to find a vision. We need to go forward. Don't talk about the land use and where government doesn't use its land. I really don't want to talk about the Cape Town experience. We're two different provinces completely. Councillor MUSA talks about the upgrade of the CBD. Councillor MUSA is in office just a few months. I think he's made a couple of mistakes. I'm not going to go into that. He knows what they are. Elections is about the future. So the vision for us and for the Lenasia constituency is to continue to assist and to advocate for the kind of services that the entire people of Lenasia and its surrounding areas need. Okay, and just to be understanding of where we are and what we need. We need to have a vision to look at the transport node, the economic hub. How do we have that entire transport sector revive? What do we do to make sure people get across to other areas? We need to get rid of the crime and the grime and the inequalities and ensure that the services that we get has to be of a level that's acceptable to ratepayers and to everybody else that lives in this constituency. So elections are about the future. I'm looking forward to engage with communities. And I'm not going to go about time into office. I think councillors, what the ANC expects of us, or all councillors, is to be on call 24/7. And safe to say, some of us are 365 days a year, irrespective of your recess and policies. My great understanding is to continue to build my vision, has to be a vision, Angelo, that of the community, irrespective of the wards they live in. We all know the challenges. How do we address it? How do we lobby government? And how do we have any kind of collaboration with all sectors of society, sporting, health, religion, irrespective of race, color, creed, documented and undocumented. People come to Johannesburg, people come to South Africa for a better future. How is it that we are going to take forward that vision? And my vision is really to see that people have sustainable jobs, people are free to walk around, public lighting must work, your basics for you must work. That is the vision. You come out of your home, you want the grass cut, you want your potholes filled, you want your street lighting to work, safety. That is my vision, with the vision of the community that will chart a way forward in a very, very positive direction, Angela.
Thank you so much to all three of you. We will take a break at 8 o'clock, but what I'd like you to do is think about a response to this issue. Electioneering is clearly what we're doing here, so the listeners can hear what your party has to offer. But we also need to be aware that there is a larger canvas against which very local politics also unfolds. 1 in every 122 people alive today is a migrant. This is only going to increase as the century continues. We're a majority young country where the majority of people are under 35 years old. They are likely to live into the 2050 to 2100 period. I am going to be generous and suggest that many of us are not likely to see 2090. We are probably going to die in the 2050 to 2070 period. And with that will come the challenges of having to build a capable city, a capable living space that addresses the issues we currently face, but also begins to anticipate issues that we don't yet see. And I'd like you to begin to think of how, as a ward councillor, you have to address the emerging crisis now, but also the coming crisis for the younger people who are going to outlive us, all of us. And this is not me predicting your mortality. This is simply the reality. If you are not 18 years old, you're not likely to see 2090, but people our age are going to make the world that the people in 2090 will have to live in. And I'd like to hear from you what you want to do, how you intend to address young people's need to inherit something from us that is more than just the problems of the present exacerbated. So we'll take a brief break and we'll come back after the break. Thank you so much.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salaamedia, your humanitarian broadcaster.
Babu, Why don't you loosen your belt a bit more?
But why now?
Well, it's very tight, blocking air to your brain.
Haju, this is only a start. I need to tighten up a bit more. Funds are tight and the cost of living is high.
Funds are not tight. It's your haram insurance which is tightening our barakat.
Okay, Haju. I will call my insurance friend tomorrow.
Maybe I must tighten up on my cooking from now on too.
No, Haju, we don't need to tighten up. It's okay. Look, I'm even throwing away my belt.
Don't tighten your belt. Change your insurance. Leaving Riba Insurance is easier than you think. Call Amana IFS for all your personal and commercial takaful needs. 0861 786 393. Amana, leave Riba for good. Amana IFS is a registered financial services provider.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and free zakat calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Every 60 seconds, a silent pandemic claims the life of a child. Unsafe water is having a devastating global impact on health and livelihoods. Islamic Relief is at the forefront, providing clean and safe water to vulnerable communities around the world. Our tailored approach to sustainable water solutions enable families not just to survive, but to thrive, ensuring they stay healthy and safe. Give water, give life with Islamic Relief.
Africa. As the crisis in Palestine continues, the Africa Muslims Agency teams are on the ground facilitating emergency food and medical assistance to the affected families. Donate 15,000 rand or any amount and help the people of Palestine. Call AMA now on 083-251-9376 or donate online at africamuslimsagency.co.za. Africa Muslims Agency, inspiring the spirit of giving.
These days, I'm more health conscious than ever. So tonight, it's stir fry for dinner, cooked in healthy Helios pure sunflower cooking oil. Helios is pure sunflower goodness, packed with omega-6. That's good for your heart and is approved as part of the Heart and Stroke Foundation eating plan. Dinner's ready! Helios, pure sunflower cooking oil. A healthy family is a happy one.
Approximately 785 million people in this world do not have access to safe, clean water. In developing countries, around 80% of all illnesses are due to contaminated water and poor sanitation. Don't let dirty water end a life. Build a water well in Bangladesh, Malawi, Nepal, Zimbabwe, or here at home in South Africa. Donate to Penny Appeal's Thirst Relief Project to bring safe, clean water to communities around the world. www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
Osman's Taj Mahal Spice and Rice. For over 80 years, Osman's Taj Mahal have been perfecting the art of the perfect blend of spices, pure, aromatic, and well-seasoned. Spices to tantalize your taste buds. From creative cuisines to gastronomical gourmet goodies. From exotic odors to traditional dishes, Osman's Taj Mahal have remained synonymous with quality spices and condiments. Taj Mahal rice, beans, and lentils. Try our range of chili bite mixes, rose and ilachi syrup, our quick and easy biryani pack, and our traditional range of spice blends. Osman's Taj Mahal. There is no substitute for quality.
Tune into Salaamedia via audio stream or watch live facebook.com/Salaamedia.
Right, alaikum wassalam to everybody. Welcome back. So I'm going to segue a little bit out of that ad break into an issue that really has affected people across this unequal city in this rich province in the economic hub of this country. So since the lockdown of last year and the economic downturn, And I don't want us to play the blame game. I'm not really interested in finding out why we are where we are. I'm interested in hearing what you intend to do to help your constituents. Hunger is a real problem, and food security is a real problem because it follows from unemployment and it follows from poor job opportunities. But it also follows from, among other things, the city police services and the city governors taking people's livelihood away from them for infringing on bylaws. Whether it is bylaws for small business trading, taking people's vegetables that they trade away from them. And this causes further kind of hunger and insecurity. What do you intend to do to deal with this, given that many of you, or in fact, all of you represent people in your wards who are affected really, by this issue of food, lack of food, that we can call fancily food insecurity. And when they hear and listen to South Africa, there are banners for food everywhere. There are advertisements for biryani recipes. To what extent do we live in a country where you, and I take the point that you have a difficult job as underpaid councillors, have to negotiate this real structural issue that often doesn't arise on the political agenda when there are millions of people in the city who go hungry and have to make very tough choices? How do you assist them? Shall we start with Mr. MUSA, with Imran, and then work our way through Zarina, through to Muhammad Alex Christians?
Thank you, Angelo. I shall continue to serve and enjoy the way I am presently. I am very active on the ground with serving the underprivileged communities, with assisting them with a lot of the needs, especially in the informal settlements, as well as many of the other sectors where there is huge unemployment in specific areas of Lenasia. And I think the community is breathing a new, fresh air of active and vibrancy from myself on the ground in terms of, educating the community and helping them adopt the right mindset of love and working together and finding solutions together. I think this has been the hallmark of my leadership in the short tenure that I've been in. And I think, I've established a good relationship with the community to an extent where, it's the first time, I think, in many years, if we look at what's been happening in Lenasia in particular with regards to service delivery, unemployment, and the food shortage, and many of the other challenges that has happened, we find that I'm amenable to assisting them in any and every which way to ensure that their needs are met. And fortunately, the community has taken well. They've gone to an extent of even calling me the beloved ward councillor of Lenasia, which has been the first in South Africa. I say this with humbleness. And I really love the energies that come from the community, taking so well to me to ensure that we work together as a community that needs to be respected. I won't go down the way of swiping or sniping at each other here or against the ANC or the DA or any other party in terms of the short tenure or mistakes that we seemingly just, feel that there are mistakes. But there was sufficient time for many of the big parties to have also come on the ground and solve many of the problems. And Lenasia wouldn't have been in a degeneration state as it is today, considering the last 10 or 20 years, what has happened in Lenasia. So I think success should be, measured by the relationship between the community and a leader to ensure that that community is uplifted in a way that they are satisfied and they feel comfortable with, that their needs are being met. So I think that's from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Zarina, I'm interested in this idea of hunger and how we deal with it. As what has been your approach? What do you intend to have as your approach? Because it's only going to get worse before it gets better.
You're absolutely right, Angelo. I think from the COVID and the pandemic, we see a lot of people losing their jobs and their sustainable income. I think giving handouts is not going to be a way to go. I think my encouragement in the community is to establish the kind of urban food gardens. I'm already in the process of trying to do that and to get more of our youth, our women involved, because I think at the end of the day, that's where our future lies. And women are very passionate. I mean, they serve a different role in a family. They need to also ensure that there's food on the table. So if I'm looking at in the region that we come from, this vast land of agriculture that's totally unused. And that people that are currently owning these kind of spaces, but not using it to its full capacity. So it's kind of sustainable farming, okay, to encourage communities and to knock on the doors of other spheres of government to say, how can you assist to our IGR responsibilities to ensure that we establish food gardens for people? You touched earlier on an issue regarding the bylaw enforcement. I think we've seen that happening. I would like to say that we will engage with JMPD, and I think that's going to go for all political parties and all councillors. How do you have a relaxation, okay, on the informal traders trying to sell their wares, but also holding them responsible for the cleanliness of the space in which they operate? Because on the flip side, you see the communities that are affected and saying, we cannot deal with the dirt, we cannot deal with all the garbage and all the dumping. But how do you come into a space where you allow for people to continue to trade, okay, economically, because the huge informal sector contributes immensely, okay, to the fiscus of the city and to its people, and they are trying to establish and to feed their families. So we really need to strike a balance, Angelo. And I think as councillors, we need to lobby the JMPD in the bylaw enforcement and say, how do we relax the laws, speak and continue to advocate and educate around the clearness of the space where you operate. The hunger, and you're absolutely correct, I can't see it going away right now. The inequalities and the poverty, safe to say in the Malaysia area, we don't talk about our social responsibility, where we continue to assist people through various programs with various NGOs. And I can see the demand, okay, on the NGOs and the cry for more assistance that people would have never imagined would find themselves in this kind of position. But how do we take these families through kind of programs and projects where they become self-sustaining in the long term? So I think for me, the thing with agriculture and doing food gardening is extremely important for the youth to continue to have the kind of skills they need. But bylaw enforcement, I think, is a huge thing where we need to knock on JMPD and say, let's just try and relax the laws. There are other bylaw enforcements that could be taken a lot more seriously, as opposed to confiscating the food and stuff of the people that spend that money to put it there, to earn their daily bread and to supply kind of food for their families. So this is something that I think we need to engage on. All spheres of government actually need to be involved in this kind of a project for us to sustain this and to ensure that we look after our communities, that a lot of them do go to bed hungry, and we need the kind of compassion and kind of empathy to change our bylaws and to encourage for people to continue to trade.
Thank you. Councillor Christians?
Jazakallah, Angelo. Angelo, the issue you're raising now is extremely close to my heart. It started even before the pandemic. I mean, Ward 58 is a hub of people coming in from over 35 different countries, living in a very confined space. And when we talk about vulnerable communities, it's not just those living on the streets. It's not just those who earn a little. Everybody has become vulnerable now. That is why we are fortunate in the DA to have a mayoral candidate who actually was the former MMC for social development. So she understands and cares for the residents of the city. So I'm going to cut it down into various categories. The first one is, how do we assist our vulnerable residents, especially though when it comes around rates? We need fair rebates for rates. It can't just be a one brush paint that paints everybody and say this is your cutoff. We have to be able to sit down with the individuals to understand where they are in their life at this point in time, so that they don't lose the little asset that they do have as well because of what this pandemic has brought in. The other thing is, when COVID started, well, before even COVID started, the NGOs have been very, very responsive to assisting those who are in need of food and shelter. And in 2016, when we came in, I found that there was over 5,000 people living in the streets of Fordsburg and Mayfair alone. And obviously, during our month of Ramadan, that would increase. And during the warmer season, that would also increase. But the surprising thing was, in winter, the numbers were at its highest. So what we managed to do then is I managed to negotiate with various departments, and one of them in social development, and they actually found a city property that was just there. And they are now in the process of converting it not only into a shelter for people living on the streets, but also a skill center. Because you know what, we need to give dignity back to those people as well. When they come to those shelters, they don't only want to have a shower, have something to eat, and the next day back on the street doing what? Absolutely nothing, begging. So the skill center that will be included into it will give them pride in that they will have a skill that they can live with. And this is something that is being used in other DA-run municipalities and been run by NGOs. So for me, I was fortunate during COVID to have worked with over 30 NGOs in my ward. They made over 500,000 hot meals to be distributed throughout Johannesburg, not only in Ward 58. And this is the sort of partnership the city needs. And this is the sort of partnership the government needs. They did try to go to that during COVID, but they could not move fast enough, and only a few NGOs came on board. So we need to ensure that. When it comes to sustainability, social development, and food security, yes, the city has put programs in place, but it's not getting to everybody. At the beginning of COVID, we had 650 people assessed to be recipients every 2 months of the food security program of the city. 2 months into lockdown, that number trebled. I repeat it, trebled. And it's not sustainable for the city because they cannot do that all the time. And that is why I said initially when I started up, one of the main focuses of the Democratic Alliance is to give people hand-ups. Let's empower them to feel pride in themselves that they can also earn their own money. Another vulnerable group which we always tend to forget is our elderly. Our elderly have a fixed income. Those living in the city residents not only find themselves that they cannot do something to assist themselves in getting additional cash, they also find themselves that little money they do get as their pension does not go far enough. And the ill treatment they get when it comes to maintenance of their properties is such that more of their money is going into paying for that than actually in sustaining themselves in terms of malnutrition. So that is another area that we need to consider in terms of our vulnerable community. And of course, we need to run programs not only for what we see in front of us, but also for those behind the scenes, like our women, youth, people with disability, and LGBTQI plus communities who tend to go into the background because of their vulnerable state, because they don't think there's anybody out there listening to them. And that is something that we also need to look at. So for me, in a nutshell, yes, we can talk about the food security programs, but that's not the only vulnerability of our communities that we need to consider. There is much more to it. Jazakallah.
Thank you. So looking at the comments that listeners have been putting in the comment section, it's interesting that they reflect some of the issues that research on the relationship between South Africans and political parties, have been demonstrating over the last decade, that there is increasing distrust between ordinary South Africans and the political system, that they find that political parties don't really speak to their issues, that people come once every 5 years with very nice promises. They paint, to quote one of the people in the chat, pretty pictures, but actually that there is a real problem with this. That the reality and the realization of these promises often, do not match. And then 5 years from now, new promises will be made. So the question that I have for all three of you, and I've asked it at the beginning, but I'd like a more substantial answer now, is to what extent do or how will you push for your community's interest that you are representing at the ward level, and to some extent beyond the ward level at the citizen level, because people who currently live in a different ward might move to your ward in the next 3 months, and still have to be, accommodated and dealt with in a city in flux where there are changes all the time. And the three of you represent the most challenging parts of this particular city. You're in the south. If you sit in the north like I do, the city can function to some extent by having people go the private route. So they privatize the service provisions in all sorts of ways and use that alongside their councillor. But in places where large sections of the population really have to focus their energy and their resources on basically staying alive and surviving, you don't have the luxury of privatizing services and getting ratepayers to take their rates money and put it towards these, privatizations. How do you then balance out the party's agenda in the city, whether it's in government or opposition, with the individual ward needs that have to do with those three priorities that you mentioned, Mr. Christians, or in Zarina's case or in Imran's case, your desires and needs articulated to you? How do you work that? Because in the end, the buck will stop with you for the voters, and they'll come and argue with you about what didn't get delivered. What is it that you will do to make that almost impossible balance? Shall we start with Imran again, and then go to Zarina, and then go to Alex? I'm trying to mix up the order a little bit. Imran, you've muted yourself. Imran seems to be frozen. I can't hear him. Can anybody else hear him?
I think Imran is busy writing down his notes, so he has not muted
Okay,
himself.
so shall we go to Zarina instead, and then go to Alex, and then go to Imran last?
Thanks, Angelo. I'm currently in a position where I'm assisting and serving 3 wards as a PR councillor deployed by the African National Congress. And my vision forward is to continue to advocate for the kind of services that we need, and irrespective of whether people have voted for you or not, you need to ensure that they get what is rightfully theirs, or what is rightfully a place free of crime and grime, and a place that they can live in and play in and work in. So given the kind of areas that I said we in the South are most unequal, I think our challenges will continue to be there. But how do we advocate government? Okay, and at a local level. And rightfully said by you, councillors are the cold face of the community. So if anything goes wrong, you are their first point of contact, and you need to be available. And I think to continue to go to government and your different various and your departments and in your committees, okay, to advocate for what you need for your area is going to be extremely important. We talk about IDPs, we talk about what people want, we talk about just their basic daily needs every day. We talk about the rates and taxes, how difficult it is for people to meet that. There's different government projects in place, and I think it's not a one size fits all. But certainly in the area that I come from in the Deep South, was 8, 9, and 10, I think I really and certainly believe that you need to listen to our communities and take forward their views to your party, irrespective of who is in coalition, whether it's a government of local unity. Political maturity is extremely important. And I think whether we as councillors need to hold the executive accountable. Okay, we want the ethical leadership. We need to ensure they are accountable, and so are our officials that work in the city of Johannesburg. And to continue
So
engage with them.
that's what you will say to your potential voters. But I won't use the term that is used often in this space, but your potential voters, some of them in the chat, have indicated that you are representing a party that has a record of non-delivery, a record of maladministration and poorly received audits. How will you address people who critique the party you represent and say, well, actually, I can't, what your record shows is that you've had so many years in national, provincial, and city power, and you haven't delivered on these things. How do you respond to such criticisms? Before we go to Mr. Christians.
Okay, that could be the view of a lot of people, but I want to respond to say that in my 5-year term and in the 27-year term, I've been a serving councillor from 2009. And with the communities and asking for what they had, I can safely say that we have delivered. There has been maladministration, there has been mistakes made, but I can also say there is some kind of recourse for that. I mean, I sit on various committees in council. And Angela, it's not just about addressing that issue. When you're in council, there's a host of agenda documents to read. How do you articulate and understand and comprehend what's written in those documents? How do you sit in a committee and hold the executive to account? And I can safely say that because I serve on the MPAC committee and the committee for UIFW, which is unauthorized, irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure. And these are the kinds of things that I think communities need to be made more aware of. That council is not just there to take up your issue, to log a call, to fix your pothole. What are you doing beyond that? What are you doing? How do you understand how the processes work? How do you understand the bylaws? And I can safely say that in this term, in this past term and the previous terms, that is what I have done. This is why I've had these certain successes. So I really appeal to the community, to the youth, to the women, and all in particular, place your confidence in me. I'm here to serve you. Judge me on what I have done. Just judge me on what I have done, and I will continue to do that. So, Angela, it's just not a job where you sit at night and do all that. How do you understand? What kind of noise are you making? Are you raising your voice in that committee for your constituency? Are you holding the executive to account? Are you holding managers to account? What are you bringing? How are you fighting for the needs of your community? I can safely say with a lot of humility and honesty that I've gone way beyond that. And I'm really asking for this community to place your confidence in me and allow me to work alongside with you to continue to advocate for the kind of services that we all deserve.
Councillor Christians, your response to the question, not to Zarina's outline.
For a moment, if I closed my eyes there, I would have thought Zarina is advocating that she's an independent and not represent a political party, but I represent a political party, and I'm very proud of my political party. And in 3 years, what we said we were going to do, we delivered. And in this 5-year term that I've been the councillor for Ward 58, just under $250 million has been spent in Ward 58. And that was spent on infrastructure upgrades, which was one of the main issues that the resident asked for, mainly around Joburg Water, where the sewage infrastructure was upgraded. It was upgraded in Pageview, Cleardor, and currently it's been upgraded in Mayfair West, and also it was done in Hursthill. So those are some of the things that we can say. How do we do it? Yes, we as councillors have no budget, but we got to be able to work with our officials, because the more we work with our officials, the more they will want to say, okay, MMC, this is a ward where we can work with our councillor. Let's go in and invest in there because we know our projects will get finished. And that is one of the main things that for me as a ward councillor is quite clear. I've never been a ward councillor before. I've always been a PR councillor since the young age of 23. So I've been in politics quite a long time. The other issue in terms of ensuring basic service delivery for your community is to be able to put together a team of residents who can be your eyes and ears all over. And I say this because currently through one of the residents, Isi, he manages a street rep group of almost 100 now, I think, street reps in Ward 58. And what has happened is it is a turnaround of the mentality of officials who before would feel grudgingly, oh, this is a job, let me just go in and fix this fault. Tomorrow I can come and fix it again because I know it's going to trip. But what has happened is they've seen the community now taking them in as human beings. And I think that is something we lost in the past, where we just expected, because you're an official, you do as I tell you because I pay your salary. The change of mindset now in Ward 58, especially with the introduction of our street reps, is that we need to work together as civil servants and the community to achieve a better community. And some of the things you said, which I'd like to touch on, is what are we leaving for our future generations? So some of the things that, as a ward councillor, I had to push forward the executive, both current and the past, which was the DA, was to ensure that we have living spaces, because our children in Johannesburg, even though it's called the City of Gold, we live in a concrete jungle at times. We are in gated communities where we don't even have parks to walk in. And that is why the public-private partnerships is so important. We've built a marvelous recreation center now, which hopefully we will get open before my term comes to an end. I'm pushing very hard with sports and rec, so that communities can just go and walk freely in that recreation space, which is secure. We've also created 3 parks in an area, a very deprived area, which did not have it before. They just had open spaces. And now they have a kiddies park where children can go and ride around. They've got a park where elderly can go and sit and enjoy the peace, right? Because more trees are there. And they've got the normal recreation space where you can go do your outdoor gymming and things like that. So that is building into the future. Also, the business hub was deteriorating in Fordsburg because the city-owned entity called Fordsburg Square had become such a disaster. Cables running from the ceilings, no proper walkways. The city invested in it, and it's now much cleaner. The responsibility of those stall holders are now such that with their lease agreement, they now know that if they litter or dump, they're going to get fined. So it's taken us quite a while, but that is happening. One of the main issues that I see coming up in the chats, which I'd like to comment on, is the issue about bylaw enforcement. Bylaw enforcement has been an issue because in a metropolitan, somebody's got kids in the background. In a metropolitan, you have people from different cultures, different backgrounds, speaking different languages. And the approach of JMPD previously has been, I am in charge, you will do what you have to do. In this 5-year term in Ward 58, JMPD have actually become more caring. Instead of removing your stuff, they're saying, have you applied? Do you know how to apply for a stallholder's license? Go into CJ Grenier building, speak to X, Y, and Z. And that approach has now ensured that those who just want to have a little stall on the corner know how to follow the right procedures. Not everybody is doing it as yet, but education and a change of your mindset will take time. But at least it has started, and people are starting to see that for us to preserve our communities for future generations, there is certain rules and regulations that we have to follow. So I think that has been a lot of achievement, and working with a community is quite important. And this is why there is some change. Others may say that change is not required because they are used to what they had and do not want to go forward. So that is also a battle that we will continue to have. But the DA has a vision for a better Johannesburg, one that is fixed properly. Jazakallah.
Right. So in some of your previous answers, I want to just take up before we go to Imran in a minute. You indicated that where the Democratic Alliance governs in Cape Town, that is the example of what you want to do partly in Johannesburg. But of course, that is a very specific picture if you look at Cape Town in terms of its clean audits and in terms of certain sections of its governance. But for the people of Khayelitsha, the experience of governance in Cape Town is very different because they sit with the same problems that people in Johannesburg sit with, that you say you've solved in your particular ward, which is that they've got the problems of sewage that hasn't been dealt with. They've got the problem of community security that hasn't been dealt with. To what extent, will you do something other than provide an example of governance elsewhere by the DA as an example for what? So if people confront you and say, well, that's very lovely for the people of Sea Point in Cape Town or the people of Claremont, but it doesn't actually work for the people of, Mfuleni and the people of Khayelitsha and the people of Mitchell's Plain. They have very different experiences to tell. You here represent a ward that isn't the equivalent of Claremont. How will you address that issue of the differences in an unequal society that is part of what hampers development in this society?
Jazakallah for that. Ward 58 is an extremely diverse community. I mean, you've got your Fitas and your Langlaagte, which are your old towns, many of them coming from Prasa, projects where people are still living in your station built houses. Fitas is your old community of you know where people were removed out of there, and then some of them started coming back. Others remain there. A lot of council flats there. Compared to your up and coming communities like Crosby, which was very prosperous, your Homestead Parks, it's very diverse. So for me, it was a matter of we've got to serve everybody, and everybody has different needs. So when I deal with issues in Crosby and in Homestead Park, people just want to ensure they got their basic services, such as electricity, water, and having their litter being picked up on a regular basis. So that's what we deal with there. And also ensuring that the open spaces are there and are safe for their children. And that's where we get your public-private partnerships. And that has happened in terms of your Homestead Park and your Crosby areas. When it comes to areas like the old Fitas, yes, government has to pump in a lot of money because those communities do not have the funds for it. And that is what has happened. That's where the parks have been built. Whenever there's projects, the main people who gain from it in terms of the EPWP in those projects of that just under $250 million that has been pumped into this ward are from Langlaagte and Fitas area. So they are getting some gainful employment for a fixed term. But at least they, at the end of that, most of them feel empowered because they don't only leave it with having earned money during that period. They also are being skilled because they walk off there with a certificate, whether they're doing plumbing, whether they're doing bricklaying or electrical. They are getting those certificates now to say, I'm employable. I can contribute to society. So those are some of the things that we have been doing because we cannot forget about our past. And the only way to deal with it is to be proactive in what we do, not just talk about it. And we have shown that as the DA in Ward 58.
Thank you so much. Imran, are you with us again? You're able to hear me?
Yes, thank you very much, Angelo. I must agree with you totally that in terms of your observations, Angelo, they surely and definitely correct. And I think that in terms of the service delivery, etc., there's still much to be accepted from the communities, and we can do so much more to satisfy them and ensure that it is at a satisfactory level. So what I'm saying is the proof is in the pudding. Angelo, you spelt it correct. You've observed it correct. And that is the reality on the ground. We cannot deny it. We must accept it. We must face it. And we must, in adversity, openly accept positive criticism and ensure that we find a solution for it and hold the people responsible in the different departments to ensure that service delivery is met to a satisfactory level. Now, I can safely say that Lenasia, in particular, in my short tenure that I've been here, I've put a lot of pressure on a lot of departments. I have a lot of proof of many reference numbers, and I can also say that Lenasia has been through a tremendous degeneration process for many years. Lenasia is not in a good state. It has suffered many different councillors being changed in the last couple of, I think in the last year itself. And some of the councillors have not been staying in Lenasia, made it more difficult for me to take up in my short tenure to solve many of the problems that have been for many a year not resolved. So many of my problems have been resolved for many a year that was not resolved. And I can humbly submit that I have made an active impact here in Lenasia very comfortably in the short tenure that I've been. I've made a mark, and I can further humbly assure and comfortably state unequivocally that I think I'm one of the most active councillors in South Africa that the residents can phone at any time in terms of communication and helping them. I'm there for them. I'm there for the people. And so they have called me the beloved counselor for a reason. And that specific reason is that I'm there for the people to ensure that if they have any needs, they're most welcome to contact me. This has never happened in many years. And if you look at what's happening throughout South Africa with every single councillor, when the water leaks at 12 o'clock at night, Councillor Imran Musa is out there on the field and is right there by the truck to show in his videos that Councillor Musa is there on the ground pressurizing the Johannesburg Water Department to ensure that they come out. Many people may feel that I do a lot of videos. Yes, I do have. I can proudly say that in the short tenure that I'm here, I have maybe over 20,000 videos and pictures to prove where I was and what time I was and what I did. And all the reference numbers. I can further state that I do not only serve my ward. I am proud to also say, humbly, very, very proud to say that I get contacted by many other wards here in Gauteng, explaining or talking to me and requesting for help with regards to service delivery, which means there is a serious problem in some of the other wards where councillors put their phones off after 4:30 in the afternoon. Councillor Imran Musa is available 24/7. I leave my family and I sacrifice my family because I am dedicated, I am passionate, and I worry about the thousands of liters that could have employed many of the unemployed here in Lenasia. When I look at the water, being wasted for days on end before Johannesburg water can come out, I ensure that I keep on following up. And it's not an easy task, trust me, but I've taken on the challenge and I've changed that challenge into blessings for the community of Lenasia. I must thank the Lenasian community that have appreciated this, that have acknowledged this. And the citizens have now called me the beloved counselor again. And I'm saying to our Lenasian citizens in particular, why I'm saying this is because it's my hometown. And I say, let's be good humanitarians. And thank you very much for your support in the past couple of months. I am surely doing something right. And I'm active on the ground. And you're most welcome to contact me at any time. Should you have any problems, my number's available. It's advertised on all platforms. And you're most welcome to contact me. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I just want to, before you go, the same issue that a potential voter might confront you with, as I did with the other two councillors. They might say to you, listen, you come from a very small party. You may do very good work on the ground as a councillor, but your party is implicated in all sorts of issues at the national level. They support figures that we don't agree with. They may have, been in coalitions that we find problematic. They may have horse traded in ways that we find distressing. How do you respond and balance out what you want to do as an individual councillor with being a member of a party that people may find not part of who they imagine voting for? How do you address that potential voter?
Thank you very much, Angelo. So it's very simple. I've come across to my community as being one that is there for the community. I've made this very clear I think when I took my office term in during November last year, that I am there for the community and I will serve the community to their needs. I'm not bound by party policies. The party has given me a free hand to assist the community, and I think that's what the community wants. Immaterial of the party's, policies in terms of restrictions or disagreements in terms of some of the community not finding themselves aligned with. I have ensured that the community is satisfied in terms of my role and responsibility as a ward councillor. And I think I satisfactorily have fulfilled that role in terms of being a ward councillor and ensuring that the service delivery as well as the needs of Lenasia are met with. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I must just remind all of the listeners that this is actually Inayet's show, and the only reason he's not on is because of technological difficulties. And I empathize with him greatly because I had similar technological difficulties at the beginning of the show. He had a massive power failure in the area that he lives in. So he's currently living service delivery failure, which makes it impossible for him to participate. But one of the things that I think we need to think through and I'd like to hear from each of you, is beyond the party politics, beyond the enmity that we currently profess for one another's organizations, because that is what electioneering is about. And beyond the blame game, where we can go around indicating this is why this is problematic, this is why this is problematic. The reality is that the young people of Johannesburg, the women of Johannesburg, the elderly of Johannesburg, the more vulnerable people in the city who are the poorest, not the people who can take their second passport, not the people who can take their first passport and relocate to, sunnier climes or to better spaces when things go wrong. The majority of the people who live in the city will have to continue to live in the city and make their living here. This city will continue to draw millions more people over the next generation who will want to live here, because even though we may be a city struggling, we're still a city of opportunities that in other parts of the subcontinent actually do not have the kinds of issues that we take for granted, and we tend to focus on the negative. But the negative is real. We're a city with some of the filthiest air possible, and that's not just a matter of pollution, that's a matter of health and life chances. And the pollution comes from some of the economic activities that are the lifeblood of the city, the mining activities and the residue of that. To what extent do you intend to have a sustainable city as part of your agenda that isn't just about the immediate economic gains, immediate jobs, immediate corporate and business and factory development, but is actually about also changing the way in which, as many young people have indicated to us, will be absolutely necessary if we are to survive, not just as a city, not just as a country, not just as a region, but as a species, because we cannot continue to have 20th century solutions for the imploding 21st century. And it is imploding. Some of the crises are made by us over the last 20 years. How do you intend to have a sustainable human living situation in a city that needs to shed some of the things that are considered necessary to create jobs and economic opportunities, but if we did them, would ensure a more dire future in the 2050 to 2070 period, when our children have to live on top of our corpses as the dead who don't survive into the second half of the century. What is your vision for ensuring sustainability given the challenges of the climate catastrophe, the challenges of environmental despoilation because of industrialization? How do we address that while still dealing with the economic issue? Shall we start with Imran and work our way back through Alex Christians to Zarina Mutala? So Imran Musa, you're up.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. And can you also include a wrap-up statement, because we're moving towards the end of our second hour?
Okay, so it's quite a difficult one, Angelo Fick, with regards to your question. I must say
so
that
sustainability, just focus on sustainability.
Basically, to sustain oneself, one needs to, like I said earlier, the economy of the hub is very, very important, so that we can ensure sustainability is there. It will solve much of the problems here in Gauteng and in Lenasia and many other areas. So I think your economy is the most important aspect of ensuring that if the economy is strong, everything else falls in place. And this is politics. In politics, you find that if you don't have a strong economy, you find that everything falls flat. Many a country or many a place that do not have a strong economic hub or economic financial assist. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. So if the economy is strong, then automatically everything else falls in place. Your safety and security is important. Your education is important. Your skills development is important. And uplifting the youth also is important. So in rounding up, I would say thank you very much for the program, and also to the listeners of Salaamedia, as well as MUSA and yourself, Angelo Fick, as well as the councillors that have attended with the session. I say let's work together. And let's respect one another, and let's, continue this local elections in a good spirit, with love, harmony, and a way that the community would look at us as good humanitarians to work together and find solutions together and implement those solutions where we engage communities to understand what their needs are and how we can help them. And in that way, we can always move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Do stay on because there may be more time at the end. Councillor Christians?
Jazakallah. This is a very challenging question you've put to us because there needs to be political will, and the DA has always had that political will to participate in the green economy. That's something that we have prided ourselves in from the 90s, where we've always pushed for government to invest in a green economy so that we have sustainability going forward. But in terms of local government, some of the things that we believe will actually assist us in achieving that is the issues around our water and sanitation, which is polluting our rivers and our underwater streams. So with that, we have a plan in place to ensure that the turnaround time for fixing of your sewage leaks and your loss of water is minimal. The exact time frames are, I can tell you, is in terms of your 24-hour turnaround times. Give me 1 second. I've just lost it. Modern technology is now losing me. But in terms of the turnaround times we're looking at is right, there we go. Access to within 24 hours. I was correct on that. I just wanted to confirm it. The other thing that we need to look at is the reduction of your informal settlements by ensuring that all spheres of government work together in ensuring that we eradicate these informal settlements, because without the proper sanitation there, we are actually hurting our future generations as well. The DA has got a plan to get South Africa and Johannesburg working again. And the only way we can do that is with the residents and the city coming together and working together. Our mayoral candidate has been very vociferous in terms of the issues around electricity and Joburg water in ensuring that not only do our residents have water, but we also put additional pressure on Rand Water to ensure that they actually come on par with what we are doing in the city of Johannesburg. I'll use an example. Whenever Aikenhof goes off, the whole of Ward 58 has no water, yet Aikenhof is nowhere near Ward 58. And the only thing they can say is, we don't know where the 500 kiloliters of water has disappeared. Accountability at that level is quite important, and that is something that we will do. When it comes to electricity, we have said that we need to open the market up to private investors who are willing to put electricity into the grid rather than being held ransom by the likes of Eskom. So those are some of the issues that we are looking at. And one of the simple things that we said, Johannesburg is rich in underground water, yet we do not invest in borehole water. And that is something that will actually provide better nourishment for our gardens, as Zarina has mentioned, instead of utilizing the water that's already gone through. And we have seen this in the Western Cape, where at one point they were at 0.0 when it came to water, but they still ensured that every resident had some water. And that is what we can bring to the city of Johannesburg and make it work again. Jazakallah.
Thank you so much. Zarina, your response to the sustainability issue and a wrap up? You're still muted. You've still muted yourself, Zarina.
Oh, sorry about that, Angela. I think there is definitely political will within the African National Congress regarding sustainability of water and electricity. Just to also mention that in the Deep South, okay, due to the high demand of water at the moment with the informal settlements, there is a reservoir that's being constructed in Lenasia South. And this is going to ease the kind of burden for the communities and surrounding areas. We have a drop in the reservoir at about already 5 o'clock in the evening. So the reservoir has to be closed and to pump up further water so that people wake up in the morning at 5 o'clock and have water pumping into their taps. So there's a lot of infrastructure development with City Power as well. For me, I think we're talking about the air quality. I can safely say that we're facing a crisis with air quality. You're looking at the kind of mining activity that's currently happening further upstream in the New Clearville area. What we're sitting with currently, okay, is a kind of a gaseous stench coming out across the Klip River. Now, apart from me just living on that area, it's stretching entire through the very far end of Soweto, right to the end of the Golden Highway. And to this end, I have contacted all departments within the city of Johannesburg, and there is a political will. They've come to site with communities that have complained about this. We've done various site inspections, okay, with all the departments. And this gaseous smell coming because of mining activity is affecting the flow of river and the culverts on the stormwater channels, including the Klip River. And safe to say, Angelo, you're talking about the youth. There's a huge interest in the youth, which are the youth eco-activists, the YEA group that I currently work with, that have an interest in the wetland, the rehabilitation of the wetland, and how sustainable are we going to make it in the spaces. And we all know how important that is for our future and the green economy. So there is definitely the political will, and we will continue to engage on that. It is definitely a very difficult question of sustainability, but for this, Angelo, to be successful, we need all hands on deck. Every single department, everyone needs to come to the party to put our heads together to know what are we going to leave behind. As you rightly so, we're probably not going to be here the next couple of years. What is it that our youth will judge us on? What will history judge us on? And there is definitely the political will of the African National Congress to continue the issues of sustainability in all facets of our community and our lives. All hands on deck, and this is the only way with our communities that we are going to take everything forward for a very livable society and a livable country and livable spaces, for clean air that we breathe, and for everything else to make it easier for communities to avoid the kind of respiratory issues when it comes to health. And I think that is something we all need to take very seriously and to work together and to unite in what we want to see for our Johannesburg.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all three of you for making time available and putting yourselves out there. It cannot be easy. Yours is not a position or a job that I envy. I would never stand. I take the easy route of spending my days looking at what you do, analyzing it, reading various political tracts in order to try and make sense of it. But as a citizen, I, both value you, but I also hold to the position that I'm capable of critiquing you like many of your voters. So thank you so much for the time that you've given. I wish you the best. To the listeners, you've now heard from 3 potential candidates standing for election. Again, for Inayet, I'd like to apologize to you that he wasn't able and that you had to put up with my rather amateurish approach to this. He will be back next week with more of these kinds of analysis. And he will hopefully then not have technological challenges. On behalf of MUSA and on behalf of Salaamedia, thank you to all 3 of you for making your time available. Imran, Mohammed, Alex, and Zarina, you have a good night. And to the listeners, thank you for tuning in. I will hand over, and thank you very much to our producer, Sadiq, for helping us through very difficult 2 hours of technological challenges on all sides. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too, Angela.